My mom texted, "Don't come to Thanksgiving. Too emotional. We need rest from her. Your sister deserves peace." My baby and I just turned around and drove home. 2 weeks later, when they saw where we went and who we were with, their faces went pale. I felt nervous before we even left. Not the kind of nerves you get before a big trip, but the kind that settle in your stomach and just sit there. I kept telling myself it would be fine. My mom said everything was all set when I called 2 nights ago. My dad even told my daughter she could bring her new doll. So, I packed the car, double-checked everything, and tried to ignore the tension crawling up my back. My daughter was in the back seat singing some made-up song about pumpkin pie and mashed potatoes, kicking her little legs in the air like she didn't have a care in the world. And I smiled, because I wished I could be like that for 5 minutes. I wished I didn't already know how this day would probably go. But I still tried. I still drove. We were almost halfway there. I remember the exact stretch of road. Long, flat, boring. I was planning what I'd say if my mom made another comment about my daughter being too loud. I kept going over fake conversations in my head. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted my kid to have a normal Thanksgiving. Then, my phone buzzed. I checked it at the next red light. "Don't come to Thanksgiving. Too emotional. We need rest from her. Your sister deserves peace." I read it twice. 3 times. My hands went cold. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until my daughter asked if we were almost there. I pulled into a random gas station and parked. My face felt hot and tight, like I'd been slapped. It wasn't just the rejection. It was how casual it was. No explanation, no apology, just her. Like my daughter wasn't even a person, just some kind of noise they couldn't stand. I told her we weren't going anymore, that Grandma and Grandpa needed a break. She stared at me, then quietly asked if we were in trouble. That's what broke me. I turned away so she wouldn't see my face and just said, "No, we're not in trouble. Other people are." We drove back home in silence. The sun was still up, but it felt like the day was already over. I kept waiting for another text. Something. Nothing came. Back home, she unpacked her own little backpack without being told. She sat on the floor with the Thanksgiving sticker kit she was supposed to do with her cousin and started sticking glittery leaves onto the wrong parts of the page. She didn't say much, and I didn't ask her to. I stood there watching her and thought, this is it. This is the moment I stopped trying to make them love her the way they should. She's 5. She's energetic. She laughs too loud and runs in circles when she's excited. That's not a flaw. That's just her being 5. The next day, we went to the toy store. I told her she could pick 3 things. She picked 5, and I bought them all. A new dollhouse, crayons, a rainbow puzzle, a stuffed octopus, and a sparkly purse. I didn't care. I wanted her to feel like the world hadn't turned its back on her. What my parents didn't know, and what they were about to find out, was that I'd been holding my tongue for too long. And the second they sent that message, something shifted. I wasn't just angry. I was done. The weekend after Thanksgiving was colder than usual, and so was my phone. No one called. No one followed up. Not my mom, not my dad, and definitely not my sister. It was like we'd never even existed in their plans. Like we were just erased. I didn't tell anyone how angry I was. I just got quiet. Not sad quiet, calculating quiet. Because the thing is, I'd already done a lot for them, more than they deserved. And now that I was finally thinking straight, I started remembering things I had let slide. Like how they used to roll their eyes when my daughter talked too much at dinner. Or how my mom once whispered to my sister, loud enough for me to hear, "She's exhausting." Or how they kept comparing her to my niece, who barely spoke unless spoken to. They always called her so mature for her age, which apparently just meant easier to ignore. And still, I used to show up. I brought pies, gifts, my time, my energy. I worked full-time, raised a child alone, and still made it to every birthday and holiday with a smile on my face. For what? That Monday, I opened the drawer where I kept all our travel stuff. There it was, The envelope with 4 vacation tickets inside. Flights, hotel, everything. I'd bought them as a surprise. After I got promoted last month, my parents had practically begged me to plan a family trip. It was going to be all of us. My daughter, me, my sister's family, and my parents. They even helped pick the dates. Funny how they had time to plan that, but not time for a 5-year-old on Thanksgiving. I stared at the tickets for a long time. Then I made 2 decisions. One for her, and one for me. First, I put the tickets up for sale. They weren't refundable, but they were transferable, and I knew someone would jump at them. Took less than 2 hours. I made most of the money back. Second, I called my Aunt Linda and Uncle Rob. They're the only ones in the family my parents can't stand. And not because they're bad people. Quite the opposite. They're honest. Loudly honest. They never hid the fact that they thought my mom played favorites, and after they won the lottery a few years back and refused to share anything with the rest of the family, my parents basically cut them off. So I called them, told them everything, the text, the drive, my daughter's silence, all of it. They didn't even hesitate. By Thursday, the tickets weren't just resold, they were rerouted. Me, my daughter, Aunt Linda, and Uncle Rob, we were going to Hawaii, and we were leaving that Sunday. I didn't post about it. I didn't mention it to anyone else in the family. I packed light, bought a new swimsuit for my daughter, and told her we were going to see volcanoes and dolphins. She asked if Grandma would be there. I said no. She smiled. The flight was long, but she stayed up almost the whole time, staring out the window like the clouds were fireworks. She held my hand during takeoff, asked a million questions about the ocean, and for the first time in weeks, she laughed, really laughed. Loud, unbothered, and completely her. Back home, I knew the silence wouldn't last much longer. Soon they were going to find out where we went and who we were with. And the best part, they weren't invited. We were 3 days into the trip when my mom finally cracked. I hadn't posted anything publicly, but Aunt Linda wasn't exactly subtle. She loved a good Facebook moment, especially when it involved a beach, a cocktail, or getting under my mom's skin. And this trip had all 3. There was a photo of my daughter in a little flower crown eating pineapple on the beach. Another of Uncle Rob teaching her how to say mahalo. Then one that really did it. The 4 of us at a luau, me in a sundress, holding a Mai Tai. My daughter passed out on Aunt Linda's lap. The caption just said, "Best Thanksgiving memory ever." No drama, just love. I got a text that night. Not a call, a text. "Are you in Hawaii?" No punctuation, no greeting, just pure attention wrapped in 3 words. I didn't answer. A few hours later, my sister messaged me, acting like she was trying to be cute. "Mom's freaking out. You could have just said you didn't want to be with us. No need to run off to the islands." Faced with tears of joy, I blocked her. The truth is, Hawaii wasn't just a vacation. It was a reset. I hadn't felt this light in years. Every morning we walked down to the beach, and my daughter would collect shells and tell me which ones were definitely magical. Uncle Rob took her snorkeling in a kid-safe cove, and Aunt Linda bought her a little necklace with a turtle charm that she refused to take off even at night. On the 4th day, something unexpected happened. We ran into someone. It was this older couple at the hotel, sitting by the pool. I only glanced at them once before I realized I knew them. My dad's old boss and his wife. The same guy who used to come to our Christmas parties back when I was a teenager. He always liked to talk stocks with my dad and bring expensive whiskey. He recognized me immediately and came over. We made polite small talk, and I introduced my daughter. Then he asked, all casual, if my parents were on the island too. I said no. He looked confused. "Didn't they plan this trip? Your mom said the whole family was going." I just smiled and said plans changed. That was the surprise I didn't expect. Apparently, my mom had been bragging about the trip weeks before Thanksgiving. She told people they were going to Hawaii. She told them her daughter got a big promotion and bought them tickets as a thank you. My dad apparently had even requested extra time off. Now they were home freezing, while we were sipping smoothies under palm trees. The next morning, Aunt Linda handed me her phone with this grin on her face. A screenshot from my cousin, her daughter, showing a group chat that my mom and sister were part of. They were trying to figure out if I had canceled the vacation to punish them. They still hadn't realized I sold the tickets and used the money for this trip. I didn't respond to any of it. I just took my daughter down to the beach, and we built the tallest sandcastle we'd made yet. Later that night, I got one more message from my mom. "We didn't mean to hurt you. Call us when you're back. We'd like to talk." I read it, thought about it. Then I turned off my phone because for the first time in forever, I didn't feel guilty. We landed back home the following Tuesday, sunburned and happy. My daughter had fallen asleep during the descent with her little turtle necklace clutched in her hand. I carried her off the plane and felt this deep, calm exhaustion. The good kind, like I'd finally closed a door I'd been scared to even touch. I didn't tell anyone we were back. I unpacked slowly, did laundry, ordered takeout, let life be quiet. That lasted exactly 2 days. Thursday morning, there was a knock at my door. I peeked through the blinds. It was them, my mom and dad. I stood there for a second, heart pounding. Not because I was scared, just surprised they had the nerve to show up unannounced. I opened the door halfway. No smile. They acted like nothing had happened. My mom reached in for a hug. I stepped back. She blinked like I had just slapped her. My dad did that thing where he smiled too big, like he was trying to reset the mood by force. I didn't say anything, just waited. My mom finally sighed and said they were sorry things got so emotional over Thanksgiving. Not sorry for what they said. Not sorry for what they did. Just sorry it all got messy. I asked them why they came. They said they missed us, that they wanted to start fresh. And then, almost like they couldn't help themselves, my dad mentioned Aunt Linda and Uncle Rob, asked if we talked much on the trip, if they ever said anything about their finances. There it was. They didn't come to fix things. They came because they wanted in. They thought if they could get back in my good graces, I'd put in a good word with Aunt Linda, maybe get them invited to her next Christmas dinner. I didn't answer, just stood there and let the silence stretch. My daughter came into the hallway, still in pajamas, holding the turtle necklace. My mom smiled and reached out her hand. My daughter hid behind me. I told them we had plans and gently closed the door. That weekend, my sister texted. No apology, just a snide little message. "So, are you talking to Mom again now? Or are we all still villains?" I deleted it, because here's the thing. I wasn't mad anymore. I was clear. They'd made their choice. They wanted quiet over connection. They wanted control over chaos. And when I stopped bending for them, they didn't know how to behave. A few days later, a bill reminder came from my parents' electric company. They'd added me as an emergency contact years ago. The note said the payment was overdue. I left it alone. They were finally starting to feel what it was like to not have me fixing everything. And I wasn't done yet. By the time January rolled around, my parents still hadn't figured it out. They were convinced this was just another dramatic phase, that I'd come around like I always did, that if they waited me out, I'd forgive them without them ever having to say the actual words. They were wrong. They didn't even believe I could stay away. They thought I'd fold. I didn't. What they didn't understand is that something had snapped during that drive back from Thanksgiving, not just in me, in my whole view of them. Once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. They didn't reject just me that day. They rejected my daughter. And once someone does that, there's no clean way back. We were sitting in Aunt Linda's backyard, the Saturday after New Year's. Nothing fancy, just chili, cornbread, a little fire pit going. My daughter had been helping Uncle Rob roast bread, even though she kept eating it raw before it hit the flames. She was happy, safe, loud, free. Aunt Linda pulled me aside at one point and handed me her phone. A screenshot from her sister, who still talks to my mom, showing some group chat. My sister had written, "Well, Callie took the money and went to Hawaii instead." And now she thinks she's above us because Linda and Rob let her sit in their hot tub for a week. It was so petty, I almost laughed. Almost. That's when Linda told me what I hadn't known before. My mom had already told people they were going to Hawaii weeks before Thanksgiving. Not just family, her coworkers, her hairdresser, neighbors, everyone. She told them I was flying them all out to celebrate my promotion, that I wanted to treat the whole family. She'd even bragged that she picked the hotel herself, which was funny considering she wasn't supposed to know about the trip at all. Now she was stuck at home in the cold, with overdue utility bills, and a story that kept changing. First, it was a scheduling conflict, then a family emergency. Now it was just silence. That silence ended the following Tuesday when I got an email from her. 4 long paragraphs. She didn't apologize, she forgave me, said she understood I was emotional, that she and Dad were choosing to move forward in love, that she didn't want to see my daughter lose her family just because I was holding a grudge. She didn't mention the text she sent Thanksgiving morning, didn't mention what it did to my kid, didn't mention the trip I paid for, or the one I took instead. She ended it by saying she hoped we could reconnect soon, and that she'd let things settle before discussing next month's expenses. Expenses. Right. The bills. I'd been getting notices, electric, gas, and now water, all tied to the emergency contact info they set up years ago, when I still trusted them with things like that. The messages didn't ask me to pay directly, but we both knew why they kept showing up. They were a reminder, a little breadcrumb. But this time, I didn't follow it. I didn't answer the email. I didn't even open the next bill notice. I just marked it as read and kept going. A few days later, my sister tried again. A little text like nothing had happened. So, are you still mad, or are we allowed to talk again? I stared at it for a second. Then I blocked her. That night, I did something I hadn't done in a while. I printed out one of the pictures from Hawaii. The one where my daughter is splashing in the shallow waves, her mouth wide open mid-laugh. I put it on the fridge because no matter how hard they tried to drag us back into the mess, that photo reminded me of one thing. We were finally out, and I wasn't giving that up for anything. It took them a while to realize I wasn't bluffing. The last time I saw my parents, they were standing on my porch pretending everything was normal, smiling like we were in some sitcom, and all this drama could be wiped clean with a handshake and a coffee. But it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a choice, and they'd made it. Weeks passed. Winter melted into spring. My daughter turned 6. She had a birthday party with balloons, glittery cupcakes, and 3 of her little friends from kindergarten running wild through the yard. Aunt Linda and Uncle Rob came, of course. They brought her a pink scooter and stayed to help clean up afterward. My parents weren't invited. They didn't ask to come either. That surprised me more than anything. I thought for sure they'd try, show up with some big gift, make a scene, force their way back in, but they didn't. They stayed quiet until April. I was leaving the grocery store with a cart full of snacks when I saw them. Sitting in their car across the parking lot, just parked there, watching me. I stood there for a second, debating whether to walk over. Then I didn't, because the moment I saw them I felt nothing. No rage, no sadness, no urge to fix it. Just done. That's when I knew it was really over. A few days later, they tried one last move. A letter in the mail, handwritten. It said they hoped I was ready to let the past go, and that they'd welcome a conversation, as long as it was calm and productive. They still didn't get it. They wanted closure without accountability, peace without change, a version of me who would swallow everything and say thank you just for being allowed back in. That version of me didn't exist anymore. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. They got the message a few weeks after that when Aunt Linda posted photos from the cruise she and Uncle Rob took with me and my daughter. Another trip, another adventure, this time to Alaska. My daughter got to see whales. She wore earmuffs the entire time and named every iceberg we passed. It was perfect. The caption read, "Family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes it's who shows up." I didn't post anything myself. I didn't need to. When I got home, I changed my emergency contacts, removed myself from anything linked to my parents. I got a new number, locked things down, and then I sat on the floor with my daughter, and we built the most chaotic, colorful Lego castle you've ever seen. She asked if Grandma and Grandpa were still mad. I told her, "We don't worry about people who don't clap when we shine." She thought about it for a second, then said, "Good, I like us better anyway." May, do. And this time, the door, I didn't just walk away from it. I locked it behind me.